Are you tired of being told your child's health challenges are just genetic and there's nothing you can do about it? Do they keep blaming genetics and bad luck and offering little to no explanation what the real root cause is, and then just recommending more and more medication? It's time for parents to learn the fascinating science behind something called epigenetics, which clearly shows us that your child's genes are not their predetermined destiny. The fascinating field of epigenetics actually reveals that early life experiences can really change how genes are expressed or activated, meaning our lifestyle choices and environmental triggers are extremely important to shaping the health and development of our children. Some of the most overlooked epigenetic environmental stressors are what we call the perfect storm. First, fertility and pregnancy stress. Second, birth interventions and trauma. And third, early exposure to toxins, medications, and other environmental pollutants that are far too common in today's world. Unfortunately, the conventional pediatrician and medical system still buries their head in the sand when it comes to the science of epigenetics and how much the environment and our lifestyle plays a role in the development of chronic conditions like autism, ADHD, asthma, allergies, anxiety, autoimmune disorders, and so much more. But now you can become empowered and informed as to how much control and influence you truly do have over your family's health and well-being. Welcome to the Experience Miracles podcast, where we help parents find hope, answers, and drug-free help to overcome your child's chronic health challenges. I'm your host, Dr. Tony Ebel, and I'll be sharing my experiences as both a dad and a doctor on every episode. I can take the latest science and neurology of healing and break it down in the most simple and relatable way possible. We'll take on the toughest topics and answer your biggest questions through interviews with other amazing parents and leading experts, leaving you with practical action steps that you can take to help your child heal and thrive. It's time to expect and experience miracles. Let's get started. All right, everybody, I have been wanting to make this video all about epigenetics for a long time. Now, when I say that word right out of the gates, you maybe have never even heard the term epigenetics, or you're very much into natural, holistic, functional medicine, neurologically-focused chiropractic care, and this, we'll just again kind of call it this natural, holistic world, and you've been doing your research, and you know for sure that our lifestyle and our environment has a lot more influence and impact on our family's health and on our kids' development than we've been told in the conventional pediatrician and medical doctors, or let's just call it the medical systems office. See, in that world, the traditional medical world, which we all grew up in, and until about right now, was really the predominant and only, I like to call it default choice for healthcare. It's not healthcare, it's sick care, right? And symptom chasing, medication suppressing care. In that world, they still today operate under what's called the genetic theory, which says that for you and your kids, your health is pretty much entirely predetermined. It's your destiny. If you're going to have a heart attack, you're going to have a heart attack. If you're going to get cancer, you're going to get cancer. If you're going to get autism, you're going to get autism. If you have ADHD, if it's on your family tree and in your genetic code, ADHD is in there. They have dismissed everything based upon this genetic theory. Now, I'm going to get into the science, but let me just very importantly continue to, with love and empathy for that system, because it saves lives in emergency and crisis intervention, but it's horrible with health promotion, and we now have the highest rates of chronic illness ever. So let me just continue to rant for a few more minutes to really set the stage for this epigenetic conversation. The truth is, it was just a theory. Now, a little bit of backstory to me. My name is Dr. Tony Ebel, and if you've watched any of our videos, you know that I love to go both nerdy, neurological, neuroscience, and I love to get really deep and really advanced with the way we teach this stuff. Like, we get into the science. But I'm also a farm kid from Iowa, and I love to keep things simple as well. So the farm kid story actually comes into this epigenetics versus outdated medical theory, scientific theory around genetics and predeterminism. I actually grew up on a farm during the time that genetically modified foods came into the marketplace. So I was my dad's right-hand man when we started planting corn that is already genetically modified in a lab so that you could spray chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides on it. You know, things that would kill humans and other animals, and does. That's literally what pesticides are. So it kills every other living thing in like a freaking mile radius. But the corn and soybeans, the food that too many, literally cajillions of people now eat, genetically modified, I grew up during this genetic shift in the conversation in the agricultural world. I thought it was a good idea because they sell it to farmers as a good idea as well. Big food, big medicine, both big liars, okay? And so in this, I go into undergrad at Iowa State as a molecular biology and genetics major. And I would soon drop the genetics major, and it comes to life in this video because when you run the math on genetics, as the medical field has told us it is, it doesn't add up. It literally doesn't math out. And it's funny / not funny, this is full throttle irony, that they've told you that people like chiropractors and natural health and holistic doctors like me, they're the unscientific, they're the anti-scientific, they're the conspiracy theorists, they're the quacks, right? People still today, okay, not you guys watching, but some people still today are still stuck in, not today, 1978, like the genetic theory, the straightforward, here's your genes, you're going to get this condition or you're not, which is really still foundationally how they operate over there. That was put to rest all the way back about 20 years ago when I was in college, and they did this genome project and they tried to map out how many genes we have to how many proteins we have, because the proteins then create the body's reactions and that would create health or not. Yeah, they don't add up. Like literally, they don't add up. So I could go on and on about how the genetic theory behind saying that's where autism comes from, that's where depression comes from, that's where anxiety comes from. Guys, they need us to believe in the genetic theory because they need us to believe that we need their products and their medications. And what epigenetics, which has been pioneered by people like Dr. Bruce Lipton, and if you don't know him, full permission, let it loose, Google Dr. Bruce Lipton, get on YouTube, get after him. I got to get him on our podcast, the Experience Miracles podcast, and duly noted to do that. Hopefully my AI is listening. The epi part means environmental influence over our genetic code. What we now know about the way our genetics really play out for our kids and our family is that our environment very much influences the activation and really kind of the bringing forth of certain genetic presentations. Therefore, if our kids grow up in a natural, nervous system regulated, toxin and chemical, fear and anxiety free, because nervous system development does have a lot to do with genetic code, and it's this interplay between our genetics, our nervous system, and our environment. That's really the science. It's not one, it's all of these interplaying and connecting together. And yet it's also super simple, because here's what it comes down to. If there's a ton of stress, a ton of fear, a ton of anxiety, and a ton of toxicity during the what's called critical, sensitive periods of development, which are fertility, pregnancy, for the baby, that's called fetal development, as their brain and nervous system. Their nervous system turns on within the first couple of weeks and then coordinates and modulates everything, every milestone, gut function, immune function, inflammation, everything else from there on after is controlled by the brain and the nervous system. Dr. Bruce Lipton says the function of the nervous system is to perceive the environment and coordinate the behavior of all other cells. So the nervous system's job is to adapt to the environment and then determine our outcomes. So it interplays with this genetic code. So if our environment is highly stressful, highly toxic, especially for our kids very early during these sensitive and critical windows of development, it actually changes the expression of their genetic code. This is no longer theory. We know this to be true. There has been cutting edge, incredible research all about epigenetics. And honestly, everybody, and I'm telling you, though they may have to get pulled into this kicking and screaming, but even the traditional medical system will eventually need to admit that it's not genetic predeterminism, that it isn't, we just don't know what's causing autism and chronic illness in kids. We do. It's not that our genetics have changed. It takes literally hundreds, really thousands of years to change our genetic expression from one generation to another, enough to explain the dramatic meteoric rise in autism and chronic illness. whenever you see a condition change that much, it has to be outside environmental epigenetic influences. And the three that everybody deserves to know about are what we call the perfect storm: high stress fertility and pregnancy journeys, birth injuries and interventions like forceps, vacuum, emergency C-section, cord wrapped, induction, epidural. These are very, very epigenetic in a not good way influences. And then the overuse of toxins and medications. So just this early onslaught of what we call the toxic burden or the toxic load theory, which fits within our perfect storm theory. Now, I want to close on that. So those are two different theories, right? Or you could kind of, if you put the toxic load and the perfect storm together, that's the theory that neuroscience and research today is actually backing up and proving to be true. And the genetic kind of traditional medical theory of where sickness and disease comes from, same thing there, but in an opposite direction. More and more research is coming out and has been coming out for the last 10 to 20 years to say, yeah, we thought it was that, but it's not that black and white. It's not that cut and dry. I'll leave you with one more concept I always love to teach my patients about epigenetics, how to really understand it, and most importantly, how to apply it in your life. Think of it like your kiddos have a deck of cards. So we all have a deck of cards, and there's 4 different suits in there. And those different suits and that different hand, therefore, can play out with a different expression. Some families have that deck, has a few more cards stacked to the autoimmune or the emotional mental health challenges, ADHD, anxiety, depression, because there is environmental familiarity, habits, rituals, and lifestyles that are passed down from family. So it's not just concrete. If our parents don't work out, don't eat healthy, they're grumpy all the time, they're negative all the time, they don't have a relationship with God in their faith, they smoke cigarettes, they drink alcohol, they're angry all the time, what kind of environment, lifestyle, influence does that child likely step into? We know this to be true. So the way we look at this deck of cards analogy is genetically that programs this generation, our kiddos, and future generations, because epigenetics explains why we are where we are and explains how important it is to change things for the future and clean up our lifestyle and our environment and shift it massively from the medical way to the natural, holistic, nervous system focused chiropractic way. And those principles and those core values, which I know for our audience, you're already doing an amazing job, and you're continuing to come to content like this to learn how to do more of it. And that's where the shift really needs to happen. Because for some of us, like for my family, heart disease is as real as rain, genetically. But if I look at the lifestyle of those in my family, my grandparents, my grandfathers, uncles, people that have gotten in trouble with heart issues, I don't really have to look at their genetics. I can look at their lifestyle. But even if I say, okay, well, my deck might have a few more of the heart problems suit in it, well, then that is very valuable information for me to say, well, if that's the case genetically for me, I better really take care of my lifestyle. If the deck is slightly or somewhat stacked against me, well, then I can control which cards I play. I can control which actions, which behaviors I take on when it comes to my health and my lifestyle, and which that I do not. So the reason I've been waiting years to make this video and have this conversation, I'm going to have it on the podcast and everywhere, bring in experts like Dr. Bruce Lipton and others, is this empowers us. The take home when you understand epigenetics, you can take it 2 ways, and I want you to take it the second. You can look at it and go, oh no, we're in such a toxic, crazy, stressful world. What chance do we have? Every chance possible. Because we can take this information as to how much control we really do have over our health and the health of our kiddos, and we can use it to reverse different challenges that maybe we've gone through with our kiddos once we find this information, and get them to repair, restore, and heal by changing the environment on the outside, and then on the inside with nervous system regulation and chiropractic care, because you got to do both if you already are going through chronic illness. There's healing from the inside, and then there's cleaning up the lifestyle, so there's less stress coming forward. But we can also take this information proactively for our families who are already healthy, already naturally minded, and we can say, this is exciting. We have the influence. We have the control. It's not just good luck or bad luck, whether we get sick and then we're dependent upon medications for life. We have the responsibility. And this is what we teach our kiddos. This is what we teach our patients. Hey, this is how God designed us. We are meant to be healthy. We are meant to be happy. We are meant to be thriving. Our lifestyle and our environment that we choose to put ourselves in is the most, by far, determining factor as to what we get out of this. And we have control over that. This is the truth. This is the actual science behind why we're so chronically sick for the most part, but why and how we can get healthy once again and shift the health for future generations in a major way. Epigenetics is an essential component to that conversation and that action. God bless, be well, see you on the next one. All right, parents, if you're ready to take the next step or you want to learn more about what we just talked about today, hit that link in the show notes. It's all right there for you, one click away, quick, easy, and super helpful.